Hello folks, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another One Piece review. So I'm recovering Manga chapter 1165. And I think the moral of this chapter from Oda is, even though as monstrous as the Rock Pirates were, as beastly as Rock's or David D. Sebek was, the fact of the matter is it all boils down to unity, and came back down to the wire. He was pretty much left all by himself. Like, he was fighting for his family, but he was pretty much transformed into a demon, which, when you compare that to what we see with Roger and Garp, this is why I really like this chapter. I really did appreciate not only the action we got in this chapter, because obviously it's Garp and Roger versus Sebek, who's going to complain, enhanced the story, but also, in my opinion, enhanced Roger and Garp's character significantly. So there's parts of this chapter I really appreciate. I'll get into this chapter, but there's a lot to dive into as far as this week and this past few weeks is concerned when it comes to One Piece. I'll start with the One Piece LA Season 2, because we did get a behind the scenes trailer as far as like what it looks like. Like I said before, when it comes to like Lyra Above and their role as Nico Robin in the Season 2 live action. As of right now, it looks pretty good, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this Season 2 as a whole, how it really comes to life. And the one takeaway that I have from this trailer, one of the statements made was the challenge was about bringing these, in Season 1 it was all about bringing these crew members together, as far as Nami, Usopp, Zoro, Sanji and Luffy. But with this season, the more difficult task is about highlighting the devil fruits, which, yeah, and this from this point on, the devil fruit is going to get even more crazier. From what I've seen, it looks pretty decent. Like, they've done a pretty damn good job with the portrayal of the devil fruits, especially when it comes to Robin. Like I said, we'll have to see how it comes out in full. And we do have an announcement date. We know it's coming in 2026. Now we know it's coming March 10th. I can't believe they decided to wait and hold off 10 more days, because this would have dropped on my birthday. But be that as it may, I digress. We're getting it March 10th, 2026. One Piece LA Season 2 is confirmed. We also know Season 3 has been greenlit, so I don't know when that's going to take place, or if these topics I'm going over, it kind of correlates one with the other, especially when it comes to like the live action having a direct impact on the manga, especially with Oda's schedule. Literally, I really like the episode 1148 that we got now with Vegapunk's broadcast, as well as revealing Joy Boy the First Pirate. There are elements of this episode that I appreciate, because they do extend certain scenes. Like, it looks like they extended the scene with Doflamingo and Magellan in Impel Down because of Vegapunk's warning of saying, hey, the water's going to sink 200 meters under the water. You got Doflamingo and Magellan having it looks like an extended conversation in Impel Down. Level 6, remember, level 6 is underwater. Doffy telling Magellan, hey, should we go higher, which quote-unquote fits into Duffy's character perfectly. But I'm wondering if there's going to be more to this. And I did say, when it comes to like the Shichibukai possibly forming an alliance, that could be another element to this. I did bring Doflamingo up as a possibility, because we don't know what's going to happen here. But I did find that interesting. Another thing that he added, we got Nami, Chopper, Brooke, and Usopp along with Lil trying to protect Robin out of Nami yelling, and I appreciate that in the previous episode, but here they really expand upon this, because you got Nami summoning Zeus to attack Saturn. I think Zeus actually protected Robin from Saturn, but I don't think Zeus actually attacked. But correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while, so I don't know if that's the case. Then I appreciate that, because it kind of reminds me of something I may have forgotten about, or if it didn't, and they just added that, I appreciate it even more, because even though this scene was like Robin to return a favor for Nami, Usopp, Chopper, and Brooke, along with Lil, to return a favor, she did a thing with Spider-Net, so Sam went off on his own to because he's got bigger problems with Vegapunk spilling the beans about Joy Boy and the secrets of the world's Void Century. Another scene that was added, which kind of made me raise an eyebrow. I brought this when I covered the chapters anyway. When we do see the Big Mom Pirates, as far as like Smoothie and Mondor. They're the only two members we see, by the way. I don't know how many more there are, but we are about to see Katakuri on Hawkeye Island. And I did bring up and we did see the anime include a scene in Achinosu involving Aokiji Kuzan, who's listening into this conversation, has been broadcasted to the entire world. So that was kind of interesting. And one of the points I did bring up, I said this when I reviewed the chapter. There's a possibility we could see the remnants of the Big Mom pirates go after the Blackbeard pirates to try and get Pudding back. That's a plot point as well. Pudding is captured along with Garp. Also, with episode 1148 in the anime, word was they actually adapted 2 chapters to the episode, so that kind of took me by surprise, because if that's the case, then because it wasn't just long ago that the anime kind of like we had like stop starts as recap episodes, because so I'm kind of like, so now that amping up the pacing, so maybe they are trying to get Elbaf started by the start of 2026, but even then it's like it technically depends when you think Elbaf started. Remember, we got the quote unquote block Lego Town section of this arc, if you want to call it an arc, involving Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Luffy, and Zoro. That's incoming, but this is a way to divide the Straw Hat. So it depends if you think the Elbaf arc starts there, which really doesn't go well for Usopp if that's the case, because considering how he was portrayed through that entire thing, I had my problems with that too. Speaking of Zeus, we actually get Zeus on the cover page with a cover request, because we got Law and Beppo sleeping on Zeus. Meanwhile, you got 3 birds, and I don't know if I was the only one that thought about the Monster Trio, only because there's one of the birds that's actually sleeping, and when you think about Monster Trio, when it comes to the Straw Hats, usually Zoro's the one that sleeps the most. So I don't know, it's maybe something I just noticed. But the other thing I noticed was, even though it's awesome to see Law again, even though it is a cover request, but I get off the feeling that maybe Oda's hinted at something, especially with the rainbow in the background. We know the rainbow is going to be a huge staple point when it comes to like the Straw Hats like reuniting on Elbaf, which it is a cover request, but I can't help but wonder if Oda's definitely hinted at something. I definitely think we'll see Laura again. It's just a matter of when, not if. So the chapter starts with Roger and Garp, and revealing that Garp also has the ability to hear the voice of all things, but they also hear Zebek telling them, "You gotta take me out, take me out." But he's also charging them, ready to attack. Granted, Roger blocks the attack with his sword and it causes a hockey clash. But then Garp comes in to land a punch. He does land a punch after hockeying up. For the most part, Zebek pretty much tanks this and just sends them crashing back. But it also caused like the heavens to split. So we got another hockey clash that separated the heavens, but only this time it's Zebek repelling Garp and Roger at the same time. That was broken as hell. But then this is like the part of the chapter where Oda goes elsewhere to see what else is going on. This is the part where the Rocks pirates like every man for himself. Like because you got Shiki's like the Rocks pirates of history. He was like trying to steal the loot for himself. By the way, you got a vessel with Marines on it awaiting Garp. Garp is telling them, get everybody out there, get every survivor, and make sure you get the hell out of Dodge. Cast off immediately. Then you got Roger telling his crew on the Aura Jackson to do the same, and they both say the same thing. Don't worry, we'll make it back for sure. Just get the hell out of here. At the beginning, none of this was working because A, they were trying to attack one at a time, and that wasn't doing anything. And we couldn't find out why that is. Garp and Roger, literally the gloves are off, and literally their coats are off, because now they mean business. Roger and Garp, let's call for a truce here, so we can take out Zebek. Zebek immediately goes to charge in. Garp dodges. This allows Roger to come in with an attack. He lands it and sends him crashing into a bunch of rocks, ironically, into a wall. Then Garp grabs a hold of his ankle and then just throws him straight through it. So he just demolishes this wall. And then in comes Roger again. And every time I see Roger in this era, you can't help but think about Ace. You get that feeling, especially with this final attack. I'll get to that by the end, but yeah, this panel in particular, you get the Ace vibes here. So he comes down with an attack. It cuts away to where we see Rayleigh and Sharky and the members of the Roger Pirates. Now, someone brings up this is a strange hockey. Now, I remember Scopper telling Luffy, be wary of your Conqueror's hockey. And we do get to find out something else to this when it comes to like maybe getting an extra buff when it comes to like advanced Conqueror's hockey. Maybe we got Rayleigh and Sharky in one panel. In the other, we got Scopper being joined by Glorioso and say, hey, nice shit, man, if I tag along. Listen, I appreciate them giving the same with Glorioso, but I would have much preferred Oda give it an action scene, even if it was brief. Speaking of interactions, we got Big Mom and Kaido, and Lin just could not help herself. She's like, you owe me a lifetime debt. And Kaido's like, yeah, first come, first serve. You lost fair and square. I'm going to watch this start a crew where brutality is the only law. So this is where you see like the Rock's pirates taking like individual paths here. And then you got Linlin said, one day I'll come to collect what you owe me. And Kaido says that day comes, I'm going to crush you, which, yeah, how well did that go for them? But then we cut to Zebek landing an attack not only on Garp, but also we see it landing an attack on Roger. And then Oda cuts again to Newgate, and this is actually one of the parts of the chapter that I appreciate. It makes sense, narratively speaking, but I didn't expect it here. So we get Newgate, and he's like on his own as well. And then you got somebody telling Newgate, hey, you broke the mountain, didn't you? And as Newgate's like, who the hell are you? And then we got names Graham, Polo Graham, Captain of the Polar Pirates, aka Marco's father. So there you go, we got Marco's father in the flesh. Graham's like, oh, I'm a big fan of yours. Need a ship? Let's join forces. Like, Newgate's like, nah. But we know where this is going because of who his son is. So I appreciate that. That was cool. Speaking of Newgate, we got Stussy, Buckingham Stussy, asking Gonzi where the hell is Newgate at. She's all about Newgate. And it's like, I don't know where the hell he's at, but he's gone. So then we got another scene that I appreciated, even though it was brief. We got Dragon going on a rampage, attacking one of the Marines because he's like, listen, these prisoners, these slaves that you use for this Celestial Dragon hunting tournament, they're boarding this ship because we see a Marine vessel about to leave. And I think this ship also has the Celestial Dragons from the previous chapter. So Dragon is causing the problems, but he doesn't care. He's trying to redeem himself because he thinks he didn't shave Shanks, even though we know better. But I appreciate this moment from Dragon because he's like standing up against the Marines, and we know where this is going. So then we cut to a scene involving the Roger Pirates involving Scarpa and Rayleigh. Rayleigh tells the crew left on the Aura Jackson, set sail and we'll follow, but we're not leaving. So they're going to back up their censure, the captain, so that's pretty cool. I mean, that definitely speaks Zoro and Sanji vibes. We see Emu/Saturn belaying to a government ship which I believe has Cypherport agents on it, because he's like the records of this incident, God Valley, the size, how many casualties there were, you need to keep that top secret. So we see Saturn, but it's Emu's eyes. So I guess Emu's technically still, which by and large does make sense because Saturn is the only Gorosei that Emu's actually killed off, and he didn't actually kill off the other Gorosei, even though they technically failed too. So all this is kept hush hush. It's a top secret, even though technically we know this it's not because of what Sengoku said. So this makes perfect sense why he said that God Valley no longer exists, and the other mountain that got demolished through the clash of Whitebeard and Zebek in the previous chapter pretty much gets demolished, and God Valley little by little is being destroyed from this battle itself, which is something that I brought up anyway. That would be a possibility. So it didn't even take Emu's weapon for this to happen. But this is the part of the chapter I really appreciate. I really like this part of the chapter. From this point on, this was great. So Garp and Roger, Zebek's handing Roger and Garp their asses individually, even though they're technically on the same side. It's like they're not fighting as one. That's going to change pretty soon, but they're still attacking one at a time, and it's not working. And we get a one-on-one involving Garp and Roger. This I actually appreciate because Roger asked Garp, "Did you know? Were you aware the government had ties to that monster?" Obviously referring to Saturn/Emu. That's kind of like the opposite of justice, wouldn't you say? Garp actually agrees, and then Roger says something that actually shut the hell out of me, because he was like, "If you want to quit the Navy, you should just join us." And I'm like, "Whoa." Obviously, Garp doesn't do that, but just the fact that Roger offered Garp a spot in the Roger Pirates, like, whoa! Imagine if that did happen, how much that would have changed. But Garp says he can't. Hell no, I'm not quitting, because who'd protect the Marines? I get where he's coming from, because it's King Harold had, like, even though he knows the scumbags in the world government, like, he sees the good in some of the Marines, so that's what he's holding hope for. It's the same thing with Garp. Like, he needs to protect the Marines, which makes sense, because after all this, after everything he's witnessed, after how the world government's acted, and no, he sees the value in the Marines, even if he doesn't like the world government itself. So I appreciate that moment as well, because it's like we're getting more from both Roger and Garp. As far as it kind of reminds me of the interaction they had when Roger was locked up, and he asked Garp to look after Ace. So we get the conversation devolving into a conversation about hockey involving Garp and Roger. And I really appreciate this moment. Plus, it may be setting the stage for Oda possibly revealing an amp up, Conqueror's Haki amp up for Luffy, because he goes on to say Almond Haki can counter abilities from Devil Fruit users normally, and on top of that, he's using Conqueror's Haki to coat. It's not doing any damage, even though it should. Then Garp goes on to follow up, and he says the Conqueror's Haki, he's using Conqueror's Haki to guard himself. So we're basically just cancelling each other out if this goes on. So, which does kind of make sense. However, you have to also factor in that he's been affected by Imu's Dami Reversi. Imu's abilities, like to transform into a demon. So I'm pretty sure that also has something to do with it. Like I said, I don't know how much of a buff he got from this transformation, but that may have something to do with it as well. But there may be some truth to what Garp says here. So if we don't overcome that, we won't do any damage. We'll just keep trading blows, and sooner or later we're going to lose. So what we should do is we should use Conqueror's Haki. We should channel all of our mass into it. Roger says it'll probably take us 3 hour commission, but Garp is like, if we don't do this, it's over anyway. So, but then this kind of like goes back to Garp and Roger and their kind of empathy for Zebek. Zebek comes down, tears pouring down his face. This is such an epic panel. And then both Roger and Garp charge up with the most powerful attacks involving Conqueror's Haki. So both Garp and Roger charging at Zebek. On one hand, you got Garp using Infinite Explosion, which to me looks like pretty much a Galaxy Impact Gatling, like a Gumma Gumma no Gatling, because that's the first thing I thought of. You got Roger charging up using Kagutsuchi Ace. It's a reference to Kagutsuchi as a god of fire, apparently. So that kind of falls in line, and that's really cool. That's really cool, because what we got here is 2 signature attacks referenced because of the name of his sword and also the name of the attack. Meanwhile, you got Garp using a technique that would become a staple for Luffy, but the fact that Kagutsuchi is translates to a god of fire, I don't know, that's not a coincidence. So it's like you're seeing Ace and Luffy, or Luffy by himself, because he adopted he can use Red Hawk Gatling as well, which adopted the Fire Fist from Ace. So it's like Ace and Luffy working together through Roger and Garp. I really love this moment. I love this attack. It pretty much spells the demise of Zebek, because you see how much this damage does, and bit by bit he's getting obliterated. He's meeting his demise, but Oda continues with the narration as far as the disbanding of the chaotic crew led by Rox D. Zebek. Of course, we know that's Davy D. Zebek, but will leave an undeniable echo, and tremors of their legacy will continue to shake the world, and it still does to this day. Of course, the legacy lives on because you have Marshall D. Teach. So it depends on what Teach does going into the endgame. An epic end in a way, but also, like I said at the beginning, very, very ironic, because had the Rocks Pirates, on paper, the Rocks Pirates are busted as hell together, but they weren't together. They fought for themselves, and it's they were the complete opposite. The Roger Pirates were more of a family. The Straw Hats are more of a family. The Rocks Pirates weren't. Even though Zebek had a different outlook than Teach does, they operated the same way. The out for themselves, and it ended up costing them. Weren't together. They fought amongst themselves. Even Zebek, if Zebek had actually owned up and actually told them what was up, his true motivations were, maybe things would have worked out differently for him. In the previous chapter, Kuma pretty much saves Eris and Teach, but we don't know where it's going to go as far as Eris is concerned, or if Oda's going to expand upon that. We don't know. We know what's going to happen with Teach, but I also like the little Easter eggs that Oda's giving you, the Rocks Pirates, the journey of the Rocks Pirates go on from this point on. Now, I would say some of the Rocks Pirates got more shine than the others. Gloriso, I think, got the short end of the stick. I really do, because there's a golden opportunity. Because granted, I know you wanted to hype up Shakuyaku, and that's fine, but let's be real. Outside of one scene where Gloriso was worried for Shakuyaku, putting her feelings for Roger aside and actually thinking about her friend for once, that was a powerful moment. But that's all we got from her as far as her character shining through. everything else we didn't really get much of anything. It's the same thing with Buckingham's Stussy. I may feel different about the original counterpart, but up till now, the clone, spoiler alert, even in the anime, is going to surpass, as far as the character is concerned, the original Stussy, Buckingham Stussy. I just feel that was a missed opportunity. I also find it ironic that Oda decided to show us Marco's father, yet he did want to show us Shanks' mother, with a name and face reveal. When push comes to shove, this left Sebek all by himself to fight against Roger and Garp, and at that point, when they put their differences aside, and when Garp and Roger actually united as one in this attack, which is exactly why I appreciate this moment, it pretty much spelled the demise of Sebek, and it pretty much paints the picture. No matter how broken you are, you can't do everything by yourself. So I wonder if Oda's going to have a scene involving Teach very soon, where he can't rely on it. As busted as he might be, he can't do everything by himself. We don't know where this goes as far as Eris is concerned, whether Oda's going to highlight that following, because there's still the aftermath of Garth Valley, but Oda clearly wanted to wrap up this main event. He did it in epic fashion, granted. Now comes the aftermath. Does he show what goes on involving some of the remnants of the Rock Pirates, or does he follow up and just cut back straight to the King Harold and Loki portion of this backstory, which is really what set this backstory off to begin with? Again, the only reason that Oda highlighted this Garth Valley incident because this is the only flashback they can use to kind of justify it, even though it doesn't, I've said this before, make zero sense, because Loki is telling this flashback, and unless you can maybe counter in maybe Scopper's involvement, but there's a lot of scenes that Scopper wasn't there for, so just saying. I'm glad he did. Finally we get the context of a lot of important stuff. I guess some of the tension did get taken away, especially when it comes to the survivors. We know who makes it out, so that kind of a little bit to take away from this. Why I personally think Oda didn't spend too much on this. Like I said, we're probably diving into the King Harold Loki backstory, which technically means we're pretty much closer to getting back into present time, which I really think this is Oda's focus now. But this chapter was great. This moment involving Roger and Garp was great. Obviously, Sebek left a legacy that's never going to be forgotten. Those are my thoughts. Please tell me in the comments below. That's going to do it for you guys. You guys know what to do if you enjoyed this video. Hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys' support when it comes to these One Piece reviews. Take it easy, guys. Bye.